Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. Today's a special one. I probably should have put it in the title down below. We're going to have a guest today, and we're going to be talking about mining. We haven't talked about mining in a really, really long time. But before we jump into that, just a note, you guys have been crazy subscribing to the new channel. We're already almost at 1,000 subs, which is wild.
With no videos at all.
No videos, zero posted on the channel. I've been downloading them, and they're huge, so I've been downloading all the old ones, and we're going to be posting them up. So get ready for that. It's just going to be like a blast of videos. So some of the old ones, but that'll be linked down in the description below. Thank you for all the support so far. We're very excited to start this new journey for the podcast and everything properly, finally. But to start a kind of an old journey, one where all three of us got together. I don't know if I had each of you individually before we got together for that one, but that was one of my favorite podcasts that we ever did. We have a special guest today, and his name is RedMonsterSC, and I'm going to try to be as slick and fast as possible with this transition. Here we go. It's terrible. It was terrible. It was awful. It's even worse. There we go. All right.
Just fix it in post, Mike.
I don't know if I can. Well, yeah, I could. I could just edit it. But Red, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning.
The mining professor.
Mining mogul.
Yeah, mining mogul. We can give him all sorts of names. So the last time we all got together, outside of other podcasts with I think we're on Space Tomatoes podcast, we got together here and discussed the state of mining and what the big changes and what it was going to be like. We've had some time with it, and they've added more changes. We've had the Arastra come out, the Arastra QA come out. We have had a lot happening in the last, maybe 60 days, and it's exciting. So I think I want to start out with the Arastra Q&A before we jump into the more general stuff. How did you guys feel about that? And let's start with our guest, Red. How did it make you feel?
Honestly, I'm a little disappointed that the size 3 lasers are not getting like an onboard modifications. We're still gonna have, it sounds like, the modules we have to attach and detach. I think as we scale up with these lasers, it makes more sense for some of those the modulation components to start being integrated, and then you can tune that on the fly with your remote interface. I feel like that was a bit of a disappointment for me, but obviously that's more gameplay they have to program in, and it's I struggle with the fact that the size 3 is just better range, better power. I'd like to see something more unique, especially because that's going to lead into what the Orion is talking about, right?
Yeah.
Your control there. The other thing is, it seems like we're just going to get larger rocks for it to go after. Like there wasn't any unique, potentially capital class gameplay that was brought in. So that's kind of. I think it's an upscaled mole. I'm still excited about the ship. It brings a lot in there, and I think they're going to be able to create that. But this needs to be the ship that bridges us up from what we know currently in mining to what we're going to see with the Orion on that capital class. So there wasn't much as far as new gameplay that I saw there.
They were very close to the chest with what they wanted to share. What about you, Croncy? What did you think about it?
Yeah, it answered a lot of questions, but unfortunately I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the answers. For example, it does really just sound like it is a mole with a proper refinery. It doesn't seem like it is designed to be I was really hoping it was going to be one of those ships where it's you don't want to work with any other ships with this. It's just sort of self-contained, does all its own things. But they mentioned that you will be able to take cans from prospectors and moles and refine those. And it's all right, well, if that's the case, then in a lot of situations, I'm going to probably just use this over an expanse, but that entire mechanic doesn't exist yet, so who knows? And then, with the size 3s, I was also a little bit disappointed that there's not much else to them, especially because in all the artwork, they've got 2 lasers attached, or 2
They look
you call them
unique.
2 hard points or whatever. Yeah, they look really unique. And so it'd be much more interesting if they had something else to them. I don't think they need to go away from how we do the attachments on the mining lasers right now, where I think it's good to, because it is its own mechanic, it is good for it to maintain some amount of similarity between each level. But it would be nice to see something like maybe we have the ability to specialize in certain rocks or something like that. Give it something unique to it.
I think in that relation, Red, you're more pointing towards like, dude, it's tedious as hell to get out of the ship and replace these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to land
Except for
that
the middle
ship
one, which is still good, but
and refit. Yeah. Honestly, and it could be that somebody just has to go out the docking port, EVA out, swap modules, and with a larger ship, it's going to be they talk about it being a long range miner. You're going to be far away from any outpost where you're going to be able to refit through the ship manager, right? So you are going to have to use kind of the component swapping, and that's where I'm kind of leaning more towards. If I'm looking at the Orion, that's probably going to be size 4, size 5. Are we going to have to swap modules on that ship? Like, does that make logical sense from what I'm assuming is going to be a multi-million credit like specialized laser? You expect to have some bells and whistles on those. So
Yeah, I just think in general, like my most disappointing thing with the Arastra when they told us that at least that main center laser can go from the top to the bottom through the ship, that we wouldn't be able to interact with it inside the ship and replace at least the modules on that one. The outsides, they made it look like, at the same time on the top, it did have a little bit of a walking pad. There was an NPC there, so maybe you're able to do it there. But the sides, I don't know, man. I'm definitely with you, Red. There is that, like in a prospect or some ship that should be incredibly simple to use, very starting out, right? I got to jump out of this thing. I got to replace, I got to bring this stuff with me in my backpack. I got to drop them. I got to replace. It's a lot of steps for what feels like should be a quite simple task, but at the same time, I don't know if their intention there is to be like, you go out with instead of, I came up to this rock that's difficult to deal with, I need to swap some things out, that you go out with a dedicated, I am searching for this material rock, and I know what I'm going to be coming up against type of scenario, maybe. I don't know what the future is, but it is, that's definitely been annoying. I think I want to touch on the Expanse versus the Arastra. It is, before we get into that, do you think that this Q&A was they were very, very close to the chest with what they wanted to share because of what happened with the Reclaimer?
I don't think it's because of the Reclaimer, but I think it's because of like a lot of stuff, right? A lot of different ships that have had issues with Q&A and concepts and stuff, for sure. Yeah,
I think they want to leave themselves open.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to the fact that a lot of this gameplay is still conceptual.
Yep.
Right. That we haven't seen that necessarily refining even really talked about. They say the capabilities are there. We had the Expanse with the refining Q&A. We also should probably talk about the Galaxy refining module that the Arastra now essentially negates. But I mean, the Galaxy is going to be a less expensive ship. It's got a module for that refining, so maybe that's the balance. But it's on par with the Galaxy refining size. That's at least what the Q&A talked about.
I wouldn't say it necessarily negates it, just because the whole idea of the Galaxy is that it is modular. So you're only buying one ship for multi-purpose rather than buying the Arastra to be able to mine.
The one thing that concerned me about the Q&A, and this is something that I think why they are they're keeping the things close to their chest, is if they tell us, I asked for what are the downsides of, what's the downside of the Arastra refinery versus the Galaxy? What are the upsides of the Galaxy versus the Arastra, right? What is the balance that you're thinking about here? And everything about that Q&A, and same with the lasers, and I didn't get any answers. We only heard what it does well, not what it doesn't do well. And what I really have liked about mining and what I've liked about the mole in particular is size 2 lasers do not mine small rocks well. Prospector size lasers do, right? So now you can make the assumption that size 3 lasers will struggle with small rocks. You're not going to come up to a 1K or I guess like a 2 or 3K mass rock and then just easily break it with a size 3 laser, unless it's something bespoke and very special, right? So it's hard to say what that'll be like, but I certainly hope that's what it's like. But the most important thing to me was, without ever delivering an ounce of refinery gameplay outside of the stations, we've added so many ships. Is that a good or a bad thing? It could be a good thing.
I mean, like let's tick off the backlog for it. We've got the Mysk Expanse that we haven't seen anything from. We have the RSI Galaxy module, which we still haven't got modules delivered.
What was the state? Can you remind me what the Galaxy was meant to do with that module?
Oh man, I mean, essentially pull in saddlebags from a prospector or a mole, and be able to just pump those into, I think, a single refinery reactor, if I recall, because the module itself is, I think it was only a single refinery reactor.
Okay.
They specifically mentioned that it is a larger refinery than the Expanse.
Yeah. The Expanse has 6 different reactors, so you can have 6 different jobs going at the same time, but each of them is going to be a much smaller inventory.
Yep.
So, and
jobs, we assume, are identical to the number of jobs that we have at a station, right?
Yeah.
So you come to the station, you drop off. That was one job. It does sound like this gives us a lot more, I guess, ability to decide what that job looks like instead of I drop off, I click my prospector, I create a job, and that's all we know.
To that point, let's talk about this. Do either of you use any refining method besides Dynex solventation?
No.
And fair in exchange?
I just use Dynex. That's it.
Yeah. The only time I switch away from Dynex is when I know that there's a patch coming in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So I'll switch to Farron to get it done quicker, just to make sure that I don't get, I've lost probably more than most people have ever mined because of patches wiping out my refinery orders. So,
yep.
It is worth noting though that, like, because you mentioned the different refinery styles, they did specifically say, I think it was in the Expanse Q&A, that they do want it to be more hands-on, so it should theoretically be completely different to just select weight. But the current refining system is trash and boring and almost useless.
Yeah.
But and they, with the Expanse Q&A, they did talk about the player-based refining, ship-based refining going a lot quicker. The justification for that was you have a smaller inventory you're going through. These large stations are pooling a lot of resources together and potentially doing them in large batches, and that's why it takes 80 hours for a mole load, right?
Yep.
That you're not going to be sitting there at your Expanse terminal for 80 hours trying to refine 6 different jobs. I would expect that to be like 20, 30 minutes.
Someone might have the skills.
Yeah. But I think that's we need to get a lot of that.
Refinery subathon stream. Let's go.
Yeah, no. Can we just can we also pair that with a paint drying subathon? Because I have a hard time feeling like
gathering.
Yeah,
perfect.
On the Q.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was just gonna say on the Q&A there was one other thing which was super interesting, but people blinking you might miss it sort of thing, which is they talked about the essentially talked about the Odyssey, right? So the Odyssey has the refinery. It's supposed to be there to get its own fuel. And they specifically said the Arastra can't. It can't turn Quantanium into its own fuel, which is pretty relevant because it distances the Odyssey and the Arastra a little bit further and gives them a bit more of a defined role.
But also doesn't make any sense. So yes, it can't
Yeah.
refine it directly in. And I saw some people on Twitter go, wait a second. So you're telling me I can't take Quantanium boxes and turn them into fuel on my ship? And that was like a light bulb to me of like, obviously that would be, what are we doing? We have to be able to do something like that, right?
Yeah.
This would be
I don't
insane.
know, because you could turn it into different commodities. Give it like maybe Quantanium. Like right now, it's not right. Quantanium is just the word Quantanium.
Yes.
But you can turn Quantanium fuel into a different commodity. You can give it a blueprint maybe in the future. Blueprints.
What we have is
I think it's fine.
Refined Quantanium. You know, we've got the refined Quantanium right now. That's not a fuel ready resource, at least according to what we've seen. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody's converting that yet. And I think when the refining comes in, you're not going to have a raw ore refine process. You're going to be doing a fuel refine process.
Sure.
And that's where the Expanse and the Odyssey are going to come in with those maybe dedicated. And as well, I think the Starfarer is supposed to be able to do that.
Yes. But I'm speaking more generally of the sense of their ships that have cargo bays. Don't you think that it would be a little bit crazy if we didn't have the ability to insert commodities like fuel and hydrogen and possibly certain crafting materials for your food and your ammo, and like that there are consumables for your ship? And if you have a cargo bay, that there is an option to use those consumables on your ship. And I think that it would be insane if that wasn't an option. Like, yes, if I run out of fuel, I'm in a big ship and I didn't bring any fuel with me, the Starfarer comes to the rescue. And that should happen often enough. But
and
I don't think this discounts that, though. You can still 100% do that. The Arastra just can't make quant fuel.
Yes.
It can just make refined Quantanium. Yeah.
We're in agreement. I also don't think it can, but other people took that quote as, so you're telling me I can't use Quantanium to refuel my ship.
Like, can't refuel it all. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just making sure that I don't think that's off the table yet.
Yeah.
I think it would be crazy if they did. So the other thing before we move on from the refineries, I want to touch on this. I think a lot of people were saying the galaxy's dead. I don't see it that way necessarily. The one thing I'm a little bit confused about is the galaxy has one port in the back that can take in stuff into the refinery. This can take two. I think if they wanted to make sure that the galaxy isn't dead, to allow all 8 or 9 to pull in and take out. And then you're like, okay, I could do one full mole job at a time. The galaxy is like the speedy but small, and the other ones are the bigger but a little bit slower maybe. And then you're like, okay, there's the balance between them, and there's a point to each.
I wouldn't be surprised
if that's...
if
again, I always mix up Galaxy and Expanse.
You did, yeah.
Fuck, Expanse. Sorry.
I don't. Oh no, because I was thinking in terms of the Galaxy, because you said Galaxy.
Sorry, because the Expanse is 8 ports that it puts into, but only one that it takes in the back. Where the Arastra has
I think it'll
2.
still be fine. It might just take one in at a time, right?
Yes.
And then you're filling up the refineries before you start the jobs, right?
Yeah.
So
you could take in,
that's probably more likely.
Yeah, you could take in as many as you want. Like, you can have a lineup of 50. Obviously, you would run out of room. But I think that that is what is sort of not necessarily killing the galaxy. I was about to say it again.
Yep.
The galaxy from this ship is, if you're only taking in 2 bags from a mole and a prospector, and if they don't ruin the game and still have a value to using a prospector or using a mole, then using the Arastra as your refinery will have that bottleneck of only 2 bags when you're coming with, I mean, I've done, and I know Red has done, and I'm sure you have done, Croncy, larger scale mining operations. If you're coming with bags, they come quick, and there's going to be a lot of them. Like, I've done moles and prospectors switching to a mole to go sell for one. The one person is the only person who deals with the refinery jobs, and it gets bottlenecked quite quick, and that's on a mole that has 8 ability to hold 8 bags. If this is only able to hold 2, that and bring in, there's going to be a lot of bottlenecking going on. So it's not the killer that I think people are trying to turn it into, so long as they don't kill the mole and the prospector. Right?
Yeah. And that's, that was one of my questions I was asking that they didn't get to. I'm a little disappointed in it because, they have this struggle of making the solo ship viable with what's intended as a multi-crew, right? Yep. The way that they're balancing the game right now, you either alienate the solo players because you have rocks that are too large, right? We see that right now. That's what they're trying to address in the 322 PTU cycle.
Yep, and we'll be getting to that one, guys, for sure.
Yeah. So we have, the solo miners that are getting left out. You have the multi-crew that, pre 318, it was, hey, there's no real reason we need to go out with a mole aside from having 3 different lasers and more capacity. I could solo break any rock in the verse prior to 318, know?
Yeah.
That now we've gone the other direction where multi-crew seems like it's more of a mandatory thing. People that are out there and prospectors, they're finding 7 out of 10 rocks that are just too large for them to break. So they're passing up on a lot of great material, spending a lot more time searching.
Yeah.
How's that going to look when we get this ship that's supposed to do significantly larger rocks, right? And yeah, I don't think it's going to be the everything ship. I really hope it doesn't turn into that because I don't want to go out and search for 2,000 mass rocks in my Arastra. I want to go bore my way through a gigantic asteroid 5 kilometers across and just pull in as much material there. At that point, you're talking about mining at a scale that we haven't seen yet.
Yes.
And it needs to deliver that.
Yep, absolutely.
But it also needs to maintain the gameplay for the mole and the prospector pilots who have, they're not going to be able to go after the same things. And that's, maybe this is the vehicle they test that gameplay with in the future, but there was no mention of it in the Q&A. There was no acknowledgement of that, at least it was asked. So
I want to jump into that next, the sizing and the balance that they're doing now. But right before we jump into that, when do you think this ship is coming? Do you even think it's worth discussing the ship at all?
It depends. If they release at least 2 of the RSI ships that they're talking about that are in the pipeline next year, I think we might see it 2025. But I think we will see refining before we see the Arastra.
Yes. Yeah, I think we'll see it on the Starfarer, at least, is how they made it seem. But the other thing is, we're such an unknown when it comes to how quickly they're going to be releasing ships. We know they want to do the RSI ships first, but that's not going to be the only ships they do. Those are just going to be the large ships that they do first. And then they're going to expand teams out, and we don't know what's going to happen. My expectation is we're going to get a lot more of what we got with the Arastra next year in terms of ship sales, and hopefully more ships produced and less straight to flyable stuff. So I think we're going to get a lot of pretty pictures with a lot of marketing, in-game, where I can't really tell if it's in-game marketing speak or out-of-game marketing speak, and nothing else. And that's what the Arastra was. It was, this is the killer of everything. You don't need a refinery station. You don't need a prospector. You don't need a mole. That's how they sold it to you. And that would be insane if that's actually how it comes into the game, right? So I think that's what we're going to see a lot as far as the way they'll frame their ship sales for the rest of the time, probably. And then we'll actually see what happens when they come in game. It just seems like this thing ain't coming anytime soon. So why even concern ourselves with it? Is how I feel.
There's a part of me that hopes that this gets into the RSI capital ship sprint that they're going to do over the next year or so. But at the same time, we haven't seen officially what's on that list necessarily. This hasn't popped up there. I'd be disappointed if it didn't show up. Maybe what they do is they get the whole team through what they've already committed for on the RSI capital ships, the Polaris and Perseus and those. And then this happens to be the leftover project that, 1 or 2 people that were onboarded during that time, they get to finish off with the copy paste. And, that's the only way I see that coming in, the 2025 timeframe. But
with that, we all know that or I think we all assume that we're going to have a very similar rework to what we're dealing with now. Once that comes in, is this ship breaks the mold and everything needs to readdress it. Larger asteroids. I mean, guys,
a bunch of rebalancing again.
Yeah, a bunch of we need to have fields of Prospector Mole and now Arastra mineable rocks along with ROC minables. Otherwise, what's the point of having them in the vehicle bay, right? Are you just going to drop them off and pick them up later? That's kind of weird, boring gameplay nobody would do. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, if I've got the new guy on my ship, I'm going to drop him off in a rock on the surface and let him go figure out the power management, right?
Yep.
But that's the only way that I see really incorporating rock mining into an Arastra. Because, it's just, you're going to take one of your people that could be mining with one of your laser turrets and dropping them off in a rock to go collect scraps, right? Essentially. The profitability is not anywhere near what you could do there.
There is an answer, but I've been very skeptical of it recently. And the answer is drive-inable caves with actual decent deposits. Like a janelite, a rock-sized janelite deposit would be fantastic, right? Yeah. The problem is all of the new caves that they started doing, early this year or last year, aren't drive-inable. So a little concerned about that.
Yeah. You're just hoping that the Rock DS is going to become relevant, right, Croncy?
Already best vehicle in the game. I don't know what you're talking about, Red.
Of course, it's probably the fastest one. With the way they're balancing everything.
Oh my gosh.
We already talked about that last week. Don't get me started.
I just wanted to give you a little dig. But let's move on to where we are today with 322. And do we, I put the title of the show, The State of Mining Heading into 2024. They did a lot with it, and we would hope that this would be the last-ish stuff for a little while because, well, the team that works on mining is the team that works on salvaging is the team that works on engineering. And what's more important, that in their minds, it's probably going to be engineering and salvaging, right? Especially with the response that they got for salvaging right now. Not great. So the balance changes. How do we feel about them? Have they worked? And Red, we'll start with you because one thing that I have never been good about is knowing one thing I've never paid attention to is the name of the rock, and now I have to. So, what's happened? Yeah. Give us the scoop, I guess.
I guess the
rock type.
Pretty quick recap. Say. Yeah, up to this point, we've had prior to 318, we had two rock types we actually cared about: Q-type asteroids and Quantanium deposits, and that was it. Right? Nobody else needed to know anything else. Now. It doesn't matter what the rock type is. Everything has about the same percentage chance to have any of the top materials. The only real difference is the common materials that are more location driven. So as of 321, rock type, asteroid type, the name type doesn't matter.
Nope.
It's still in that same boat. What they've done is they've changed the sizes that you can roll through. So it used to be the scale was like a 0.2 to a 1 rock scale. So there was a minimum scale of 0.2, maximum of 1. They've taken the M and Q type asteroids and made them larger, in quotes. They basically took the minimum size that rock could be and moved it from a 0.2 to a 0.4. So you're going to see, you're not going to see the 2K mass. You're going to see maybe 8K or larger with the M and Q type asteroids, but they're still going to be intermixed with the rest of the asteroid types. The C, E, P, and S types are all completely unchanged. So M and Q is the only thing you need to know for asteroids, and that's what you're going to look for as possibly a mole miner, right?
And for asteroids exclusively?
Yep.
Okay.
Asteroids exclusively, yeah. Okay. So CEM, PQS, all the asteroid types, they are only on the deep space. And then they've got the named deposits that are the surface deposits. Mm-hmm. They talked about bringing some of the scale down there. This is kind of the other way. Instead of making the smaller, making a larger floor, they brought the ceiling down. So our max scale from 1 for obsidian, igneous, quartz, and shale, they brought that from 1 down to 0.8. And then there's 2 pipes. They brought Felsic and Nice down from 1 to 0.6. So essentially cutting the maximum size in half. And then you're rolling within a much smaller window. So you're going to have a lot more consistently smaller asteroid or smaller surface deposits if you're looking at locations that have Felsic and Nice. Now, that's something that hasn't been one of my focuses up to this point. Part of the reason why I don't have a chart on it yet.
Yeah.
But, knowing where to go if you've got a smaller ship or outfitting for something, I still feel like it doesn't matter necessarily what material you're going after. It's still going to roll in the same pool. Everything's going to have about the same Quantanium, Bexlite, Gold, and Terranite chances. It's just now they're going to be in a smaller package, right?
For now. Yep. We know, and that's the one thing of like the state of mining heading into 2024 that I'd like to see change, but not until we have crafting. I think the moment we have crafting, it's like, okay, start saying this moon has this, that moon has that, this planet has this planet has more of these things. I guess there'll always be a chance to find little bits. That would be nice. But the I think that's when we see those things change. And we have 11 months or so until that change is meant to happen, right?
And I've harped about this on a couple of occasions that they really should go for an archetype to give us the density driven, the resistance driven, and the instability driven rocks. Don't make us deal with all 3 for the top tier with what they're doing right now.
Yeah,
define those and give us a reason to outfit for resistance or instability, or just bring in as much power as possible, right?
Yeah, and I think just generally, how do we feel, speaking of that now, since the big changes have happened, how do you feel about the state of it, and did it improve? And do you like it better than you did before? How has it been with groups better? Just generally, how do you guys feel about mining since the last time we spoke? Or maybe since a little bit before the last time we spoke. I think we generally felt really positive about the direction that they were going in. We had our gripes about certain things. Red, you definitely still have the same gripe about the current situation with gold and stuff like that, of not making much sense of it being everywhere. It's just a dice roll. How do we feel now than we did back then? Croncy, you go.
Yeah, I will say while the changes were fantastic, I never realized how much of an impact economy issues and changes would have on me wanting to mine.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like previously, I still enjoy mining, but I feel so much less incentivized to do it now that I can just make crazy UEC doing one of 5 different broken things in the game at the moment. So that's been a little bit disappointing because it's been a really good mechanic otherwise. And then with these new changes, like when they made the change in 318, I never wanted to go into Prospector ever again. I do now, except for how it looks. But yeah.
I would say the fact that we haven't had an economy wipe since a lot of those changes. Like the last wipe was 318, and we had Salvage that was completely broken. The motivation of mine isn't necessarily there, aside from if you're just trying to keep your skills practice, right? And granted, it's one thing I do because I enjoy the process of mining, and going out as a group, you can just shoot the breeze. But I know every night, every evening, the guys on our Discord server, they're off doing salvage and ERTs and coming up with hundreds of millions of credits every night. And it's just if you're in it to make money, you're not there, right? And that's number one. I do think I'm appreciative of the changes they've made. I know for myself, I usually mine in a group, so there's never a problem like getting enough people together to break a rock. But I do hear a lot of complaints, and even when I'm trying to do video recordings and stuff, I've got to be selective about the rocks I'm prospecting for. And if all you have is a prospector right now, I think the changes they're making in 322 are a good step in the right direction, But up to this point, the solo operator has been left out in the cold.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think they are still? Or do you think, how far in the right direction do you think we are?
And the fact that they're bringing the rock mass down by like nearly half on a couple of types, it's going to make it more interesting for prospectors to go out and find those rocks and be more consistent about being able to break those. Right now,
certain locations they can go to find those types of rocks.
Yes.
Like I know personally, I was really struggling with it, and then somebody just told me to go to Selin, and this was before the changes. I wasn't aware of this, but I went to Selin, and I pretty much had rocks I can mine in 321 before they made any of the 322 changes. And I was like, oh, nice. I didn't even know that was an option. So the idea of that, because I prefer to play the game solo more often than I do like to play with a group, just because the herding the cats is just such a pain in the ass in this game sometimes that it's not something I enjoy that aspect of right now. I think when things are a little bit easier, I absolutely would want to be in a mole and enjoy the hell out of like, hey, put your laser at this and I'll put my laser at that, and oh, use your thing at this time. Like it's awesome. But a lot of I would say 70% of the time, I'd rather just pull a prospector out and go mining, because like you guys, I enjoy the process way more than I enjoy some of the salvage stuff, and we can chat about that a little bit as well. But that's where I hope that these changes really put it in a place where I know there's a place I can go. I'll have a chance at my Quantanium, I'll have a chance at my gold and everything else, and I'll be able to experience the gameplay at a smaller scale, but an enjoyable one. Yeah. And it sounds like they're going to be in that direction. But
and the reason why Selin, it's a good moon to go out to, because the mix of those common materials, the crap that you skip over, they are lower density there compared to other places. You get out into an area with tungsten, that's a lot of extra mass that you're having to deal with. You got to break through, and it's leaving behind just the same amount of the other tier ones, right? When they roll between that 0.2 and the 1, right? That's a fixed scale for SCU total.
Yes.
What happens then is the more dense materials scale that mass up ridiculously. So, people that focus on the density can go find and be successful. It's just there's, I have a hard time relaying that in a clear way for people to understand. And, obviously the game doesn't tell you any of that. It just says, go out and find rocks, right?
Yep. Yeah. I think that before we do anything else, that's something I really, 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 really want to touch on is in all of my discussions around salvage and how I am not personally happy with how simple structural salvage is. A lot of people are like, you're just trying to make everything like mining, and mining sucks. And when I tell you, sometimes I exaggerate, like, or in my own mind, where somebody, let's say 2 people make some nasty comment towards me out of hundreds and out of thousands of people that are watching the video, I might focus on those. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying there are a lot of people saying they don't like the changes that happen to mining. And I think it's a lot of what Red is pointing out is the game doesn't communicate to you the information you need to know very well, right? And not everybody has access to Red's cheat sheets. And even, Red, thank you for everything you do, of course, but do I want to spend 5 to 10 minutes every time looking at a cheat sheet? I think we all would rather have it in the game, right? And I think that's definitely a point to bring up about the state of the mining right now. Is it overcomplicated? I don't think it is. Once you learn it, it's not that hard. But
and let's talk about the comparison to salvage, that you can go out and be successful as a solo mole or a solo vulture, right?
Yes.
And a solo reclaimer. Even, right?
Yes. Very easily.
You've got claims. You've got salvage claim missions. We don't have that for mining, right? And if you had a claim you could buy into just the same way as we have our salvage claims right now, that goes out and says, okay, there's a cluster of 500 kilometers area out here that has a specific type of asteroid or a specific type of surface deposits, those are what you're going to want to look for. And all it has to do is take the chances of rolling that and increasing it from maybe 10% of the material to 60% of the material in that zone. Give us a claim we can go out, buy into, and go and be more successful at what we're targeting, right? Yeah. We want to be able to target specific materials and give us those claim missions that will make it possible. They've done that for Salvage, which is great because, and I got burned on this when I was doing my Salvage review video, when we first had it in 3.18. We didn't have missions. It was literally going out to Lagrange points or in the air and Halo and
looking
saying,
for the panels.
Looking for the panels, looking for the derelict ships. I went through and put a lot of effort into saying, okay, here's where you can find specific ships at these Lagrange points. And they were everywhere during PTU. They immediately nerfed it as it got into live. And now with the Salvage missions, it completely negates it. And what people were doing, instead of going out there when it was initially there, they'd go through ERT missions and they'd clean up the scraps, or they'd commit insurance fraud by pulling out their own C2, trashing it. And by the time they were done hole scraping that C2, the insurance timer was up. They could pull a new one. There was no reason anybody needed to go and hunt for salvage targets the way that we do with mining.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was a question I wanted to ask about 10 minutes ago. So mining missions were on the roadmap this year for a little while. I think they were up there for about 6 months. They got pushed back once and then they got removed once, I believe, or maybe they just got sort of removed. In addition, we have Pyro coming out. Maybe we have Pyro coming out next year. Who really knows?
It's out already. We had it, right? Everybody praising 100%. That they did it.
Occupy Pyro.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Where can you get that shirt, by the way? I have to do the Croncy.
Shop.redmonstergaming.com. It's my merch store. I've got it up there, and if you use the coupon code Pyro or Bust, you get 25% off through the end of the year. So.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Nice. So, two features essentially coming up for mining, hopefully within the next year, right? Is some new mining materials in Pyro, which Red, I know you found a couple of names of some minables, and then also the potential for mining missions coming up. Do you think that either of those are going to solve any of the problems that we just spoke about for 40 minutes?
So, the two aspects. What are they again?
So we've got mining missions that are supposed to come up. Now, they haven't talked much about them. It sounded like they were going to be essentially the exact same as Salvage missions, where it was just going to be like a rock, maybe a cluster spawns, and you go to it.
I had a little info on that too.
The additional minerals.
They needed help from other teams, and that rip.
But it's still probably within a year, realistically.
Hopefully,
maybe if it gets back on that.
Yeah. At least in the data, there are a gold rush type deposit, so I think we're going to see some gold rush missions, or at least a mission that triggers a specific gold type deposit. So
but do you think so? Because you were just talking about how salvage contracts changed a lot of how salvage worked and whatnot. If people are if people are complaining a lot about because I do hear it from some people that do mining, maybe it's a bit too hard to go find stuff and whatnot. Do contracts solve any of that? Because I think theoretically they would, but it also might make the gameplay a bit too easy.
Yeah. Well, and how many of us think that mining is easy for a new player, right? It's a complicated game loop. Yeah, somebody's going to go out and they need videos like what I put out, and they need the charts like what I put out, but because there's nothing to walk you through it. I feel like, yes, giving a mission like that initially, it's going to cut into your profit margin. But at the same time, you're going to go through and have more of a guided experience up through mining. You can go after lower density rocks. They can tune these things so that you can be successful out of the gate.
On the small missions, right?
And
they do a much better job than what they're doing with Salvage, because Salvage there's no skill involved in it. So they can really tune exactly to make it so it's a
give us reputation. Give us reputation based missions that you start off as the humble miner going out and just breaking the lowest density rocks possible with the big green zones, right? Give us tiers as we move up and complete more of those missions, get us into the harder stuff, right?
Yep.
If I have a mission that says
all that,
and we talk about the mining missions like a claim you can go out to, or maybe just take a mission that says, hey, this particular refinery needs 60 SCU of quartz.
Yeah.
Right. Give us a reason to go mine that other garbage, because that absolutely can help people get in and say, oh, well, like, where am I going to find quartz? And that's give us the common materials and they can go look for those and be successful. And there's going to be the bonuses of the tier 1s and the Quantanium that you get in those deposits. But yeah, it's I think that would be much more beneficial for a new player trying to get into mining, is if they have that reputation to bring them through a difficulty level and get them skilled up on that skill. And then, they can stop paying for the claims, right? They can go out and find their own and not have to worry about it. But I mean, we've got the entire Aaron Halo out there with places you can spawn a mining claim anywhere in that rim, and it's going to be somewhere hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from anybody else. So you can pop in a 500 kilometer, rich deposit area for one of these missions.
How?
And then
Go ahead, Croncy.
And then with the mineral, the fantastic response for the first one with the minerals and it's sounding like there's going to be unique pyro minerals.
Yes. Right.
Which I think is ideal from a lot of people's perspectives. That would be a good idea in general. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think the chances are that we are going to see another rebalancing where it does make it a bit more planet specific as well? Because if you're going to make them unique to one location, you can make other things unique to other locations.
I mean, I feel like they need to rebalance the minerals by deposit type, anyways, and bringing in, we're talking about bringing in ice, silicon, Celeron, and I think tin was the other one.
Mm-hmm. Ice excited me the most, just to sneak that in there.
Yeah,
that was super cool.
And as we were talking about the refinery, that was one. I'm like, you're going to take ice and refine it into water, and maybe the hydrogen and oxygen for atmospherics. But I absolutely think they need to do more on the rebalancing to bring in, like I said, the archetypes, the density, that bring it in that way. But obviously with Pyro, they kind of retconned it. That initially it was all mined out. They've gone through, changed the lore to match and say, okay, we are going to have surface deposits and things you can mine. During the playtest, I found plenty of rocks that were mineable. And
I will also say I don't think it's a retcon. I think it was always understood that it was like it's not worth mining for a massive corporation like Pyro anymore. Yeah. But it is still going to be good for I think the exact term was like a budding amateur or something like that. Yeah.
So how do they deliver that, with surface level, at least on the map I saw for Pyro, we have a whole ton more asteroid clusters. They're everywhere. Yep. We've got the Akira cluster, and I think there was like 25 something named asteroid clusters on the star map. I think there's going to be, at least in the Stanton system, we've had it's 6 different templates of asteroid types. So
yeah. I mean, I think it's supposed to be a bit of a mining haven. So just at least for players, not for necessarily like massive orgs or anything. So as long as they make it that and they give it the risk, then it just adds to the whole Pyro gameplay anyway. So,
yeah, and I just think that's really where I think I talked about this when we had spoke last. It's they need to nail down how we interact with the system, and I think that they did a really good job with that. And if I was to give them a grade, I would say a B+ in how we interact with mining the lasers. They did a really nice rebalance for it. Is there any reason to use a Lancet, by the way? Does anybody use a Lancet ever? That's the only one that I think is the one that didn't make sense to me.
It was so powerful, they nerfed it into oblivion.
I know. Yeah. It's like, we're like, hey, no using that anymore.
They absolutely murdered the Lancet with the 318 rebalance, and it's right now. I mean, the Hofstede and the Helix are kind of my go-tos.
Same.
It's there's no reason to use the Lancet, and the fact is, I think all of the rocks, with the way that they've done the common materials, all of the green zones are significantly smaller. I feel like you very rarely find a rock without modules that the green zone is, that looks easy, right?
Mm-hmm. I still one thing that just like solves all of the problems to me for all of those mining laser balance changes, like because they did a pretty good job, but there's still like issues, is just make extraction laser power do something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if I extract 4 seconds faster, right? Like that just does not actually impact me at all. Make it that I can extract larger things, or I'm able to extract more from a thing. Just make it something actually relevant to what I want to do.
Nobody cares how fast you can scoop.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like extraction laser power is a dump stat unless it does exactly what you're saying. Give us the opportunity to pull in larger rocks, but then we've still got to break once at least. My thoughts. I don't think we're going to get to the point where you have just the absolute straw like the Reclaimer Claw is, because I think we're going to talk about that. We're not going to have the opportunity to go out and just direct scoop up a 25 SCU rock if we hear extraction laser power. So unless
every laser has the extraction laser power. There we go.
Let's break it, Croncy.
Easy mode.
Let's break it. By the power of math, it will be done.
Now, we do have a caller. I don't know what's going to happen here with the cameras, so I'm a little worried about this. I'll try to see if there's a setting that I can hide myself or something like that. I will see, but we're going to try and bring in Hudson Hawk here and see what they say. We talked a lot about mining, and it would be nice to hear what some of the listeners think about the system as well. So, fingers crossed. Hudson Hawk, welcome. It broke everything. Let me see if I can hide myself. God.
Hudson, you broke everything. Jeez.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Oh, God. No.
It's a mess.
It's my head twice.
Yeah. Is there a way to hide? Hide. Yes, I got it. I got it.
I'll just hang on. I can lean. There we are.
We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Hey, put your head up higher. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is a disaster.
At least you guys get to see my Christmas lights.
True.
What a disaster. Yeah. I tried.
Well, while Mike fixes, let's at least talk. Hudson, how you doing?
If I can fix.
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
I have an idea.
Me and Red are doing great. Mike's not doing too good.
No, I haven't. Oh no.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Let's go here.
Well, topic on hand: mining and refining.
Mm-hmm. Solved.
Whatnot.
There we go.
Solved. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, earlier you guys were talking about the refining processes in the refineries, all the different types of what if, and it's probably a dumb idea, it's probably somewhere already come up with, what if the different processes were for specific types of ores instead of just being this takes this long and it costs this much or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like
that comes up a lot
involved, though.
So just to clarify, you're talking about, so right now, if we go to a refinery, we have to refine the entire load using the same process. Otherwise, we lose stuff. You're saying give the opportunity to maybe break those, one order up into multiple refinery jobs to tailor each one for the material you're going after.
Yeah,
without losing
being able to specialize for materials.
Yeah, like you were saying that everyone pretty much uses the Dinex solventation or whatever.
Yeah.
Why not just gold uses one and quantum uses another and whatever.
Yeah.
Different efficiencies for different processes.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if that's exactly what does happen, at least with ship refining, because of how they have talked about how they want it to be a bit more hands-on, and that you will use like catalysts to do your refining and stuff, right? Like some type of consumable. Yeah. Go ahead, Red.
I do think that's the direction they're probably going to go with refining, to give you a lot more hands-on fine-tuning for specific materials, maybe having different reagents that They talked about having consumables that are part of the refining process. I feel like there might be a consumable that gives you 5% better yield on Bexolite, but you shouldn't be using that on gold. Like it'll have downsides, and so you'll have an opportunity to split. So,
yeah,
I think I did it.
He did it.
Can we just give a round of applause to Mike for unscuffing that whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I leave, and then it screws up everything again.
Only for a second.
Yeah.
Only for a second, not for too long, because then I just have to right click and say show non-video participants, and then we'll be good. So
nice.
Yes, I'll do the best I can with it, but yeah. I like that idea. Just to add to it, I like the idea of certain things making sense for certain others. What they could do, and again, since I was doing all that, I wasn't quite listening. Think about the bonus percentages. Did anybody mention that to what we have in the current?
Briefly.
Okay, I would just add that to the jobs. So a certain job gives you bonus for certain things, and
instead of certain stations having those bonuses,
you can have the stations have it too, but you can maybe get an additional bonus with that thing, and but it would come with everything comes with a downside, right?
Yeah.
So what that downside would be is maybe another common material that would go with that would have a negative on it, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to add, Hudson? Or we talked a lot about other things. How do you feel about mining in general?
Well, I started getting into it early on, before 3.18, and just really haven't gotten back into it. But trying other things that have since come out. But something else was the Rock DS or the Arastra. But what if they changed the Rock DS so it could be basically like a mini prospector, so it could support the Arastra in that way?
What do you mean
by
mini
like a ground-based, or like make the laser more powerful, or what do you mean?
Yeah, a ground-based prospector, so it could mine those non-gemstone rocks.
I think you're running into the same problem that they're struggling with mining and salvage. The gameplay for the solo versus the larger ships. If we bring in the Rock DS to be a mini prospector, it's going to have the same problem of rock size. But the other thing is you're going to have to drive tens of kilometers between deposits. So you're going to spend a lot of time being a surface explorer and very little time, actually getting out. Unless you're in a mining ship, at which point you should really just focus on that, right?
Well, I think the assumption here would be, right, like you go with your Astra, you're in your size 3 mining lasers, you break up a massive rock, and eventually, however much you break it down, it breaks into small rocks. You can't get it with your Astra. The lasers are too powerful. If you had the Rock DS have a slightly more powerful laser, I actually don't think that's bad. Because as long as you're forced to get 2 people into the vehicle, because then you can get out of the Arastra. You can it wouldn't be tens of kilometers. It would be, the couple 100 meters that this cluster is in, whatever, if you're in atmosphere. And you would then be able to break down those rocks with a Rock DS. And then it would make the Rock DS not garbage, but certainly not overpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I want to talk about a little bit about the mining laser power. Right now, I think the Rock and the DS, they still have a laser power of like 4. If you compare that to the Arbor laser, its minimum power is 189.
Yeah.
Right? And the Hofstede is the other one, the minimum power at 105. Right? If they're still on the same scale, we need 25 DSs to really catch up with what even the lowest minimum power is. Right? There's a lot of gap there. I would struggle to see that being long term. Obviously, if they bump the power up, is it no longer capable of doing gemstone deposits? Right? And
sure.
Are we shoehorning our gameplay in to make a vehicle that has no business being relevant for mining?
Or you could just have like a larger version of the DS.
Yeah.
Like another ground-based miner. I think you're focusing maybe too much on making prospector minables ground-based mineable. I don't necessarily think they need to.
Just thinking of just specifically supporting the Arastra, so they can mine the smaller, or it can break apart smaller rocks. as a support vehicle rather as a dedicated mining vehicle.
I would hope
Yeah.
they don't kill the prospector, and the prospector would be that support vehicle. Personally, but I get where you're going there at the same time, because the ground vehicles are creating a dedicated mineable just to make the ground vehicle viable was always a mistake, in my opinion. And I would love to have just seen a more vast range of possible minables for ground vehicles. And it was just, I would use the ground vehicle for the much smaller stuff. And I would be able to, and maybe there would be, like we have, somewhat unique, more often, much smaller stuff like gems, but also the option to be like, I can mine a little deposit of titanium too.
Yeah, I think the best solution to make, like they obviously advertise the rock and the rock DS a lot in the Arastra stuff, and like, hey, this is what it's there for. The way to balance that to make you actually want to get in the rock and the rock DS, and the better solution is to do exactly what they're trying to do right now with balancing the reclaimer, where they're trying to make it that you are incentivized to scrape before you eat the ship. Right? Mm-hmm. They're upping the prices of RMC. It's still not there yet, but like,
we'll talk about that. It's not even close.
Yeah, no, but they are actively trying to get people to do RMC, right?
Yeah.
So you just need to do the same thing. You need to get people to actively want, sometimes, not all the time, to go out in their ROC rather than just cracking larger rocks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is just my opinion, but I feel like this is a space game. We don't really have we have ground vehicles out there, and they're good for racing. They're good for just putting around, having fun.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But do we have actual needs for ground vehicles in a mining operation when you've got the prospector and other things? Like, I don't see that. The only thing out there is the specific gemstones with the rock mining, right? And you're gonna have a support ship, but you absolutely are not using that vehicle for long distance traversal. You're getting into a spaceship, you're going elsewhere, right? And
that's why deposits need to be mixed. They need to be mixed with mole prospector or mole minables, prospector minables, rock minables, and Arastra minables as much as possible. I've always said, like, you want us to work together, you want us to do these things. That's the only way to get it to happen, and they still haven't done it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And
but Hudson, we'll let you go because I know Red's on a little bit of a time sink, and we're creeping up on that time. And we have one more caller. Jazz, I see you in the green room. I don't think we're going to be taking another one today, so sorry, dude. But let's bring in another one, and then we'll move on. So Hudson, thank you very much for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
Welcome, guys. Have a good one.
Later, dude.
Yeah, you too.
And we'll bring in what the heck? I didn't want to reorder channels. Matt Byrne, welcome, man. Can you hear me?
How you doing?
Can hear you.
Awesome. You're a bit low. I'm going to turn you up. And go ahead, Matt.
Cool. I mean, I'm somebody who does guiding for mining.
Nice.
System, and it's one of the big things is that, like, people just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
It's quite an overwhelming thing to get into. There's so many different options, different heads, different lasers, and the game itself doesn't tell you what that does. And so kind of walking people through that is such a process. And Red, your sheets are kind of great to be able to point people who are interested in that amount of information. Like for some people it's too much, and actually what they want to do is just play the little mini game of getting the laser in the spot. And that's a totally viable way of doing that. And I quite like that it's got kind of an entry level. You can just go and do something really simple, or you can go full scale and really delve into something that's a bit more kind of meaty. You can decide where you're going, when you're going, what kind of rocks you're going to take and avoid, what type of rocks you're going to really seek out for. And that kind of led me into my point about refining, which I think it would be really interesting to have kind of different solutions to different positives and negatives, because it then means that you're targeting one type of cluster. You're targeting one kind of, if you just want to mine asteroid type K, you can kind of get a better yield by picking the refining that's going to refine for the materials in that cluster, and also stop the kind of like, oh, I'll just grab a little bit of all the tier ones. It's kind of like, right, I'm going to go for this specific tier one and keep finding those ones. And again, leading into which planet am I mining on? Is that planet better for this specific material?
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff just seems to make a little bit more kind of lore-based sense in my head. And again, kind of then makes that, you can say to beginners, right, if you're going with a low power laser, it's just a rental prospector, you want to head to this planet because you're going to find way more rocks that are way more breakable. They're not going to make you as much money, but they're way more kind of, you're not going to spend half an hour scanning to find a rock that you can actually break. And I'm quite excited to be able to point people in that direction as a starting point, and then say, do you know what? Later down the line, you can start to get into the whole mining head modules, gadgets, all that stuff.
And to their credit, the Arbor mining laser is actually a good starting laser.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah.
Yeah. The prior to 3.18, it was garbage, and the number one thing you should upgrade immediately. And that's where a rented prospector was absolutely getting destroyed. Yeah. But now the Arbor laser head is actually viable, and I feel like the third best option behind the Helix and the Hofstedes. So definitely making it more understandable for a new player. We don't have the ability right now to go target specific tier ones, right? Yeah. It's everywhere. They're everywhere, and that's, again, bring in the archetypes, give us more difference in material composition within the deposit types, so that a K type asteroid, would be viable. We've got M and Q that are going to be more worth paying attention to as a mole, but they're still going to have roughly the same level of tier 1s and tier 2s.
Yeah. And then on your initial point, Matt, about like, when new players come into mining and Star Citizen can be a bit overwhelming, kind of course, because every other MMO, with maybe the slight exception of deep core mining and Elite Dangerous, is like left click idle. And that's it. And I really love that Star Citizen mining is a lot more active and requires a lot more work. But yeah, people will 100% come in with the expectation that it's a little bit easier. I think when they do learn it, and if there was an easier way in game to learn it, they will love it just as much as we do. But yeah, it makes it a bit hard.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Matt. Is there anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's I've said my piece, and I just want to thank you guys for all you do for kind of helping people to get kind of the details out there. But also making it accessible. It's definitely a big thing. So
do me a favor then. Shout out your channel, since you're helping out people as well.
In terms of content, I'm just a guide. I use the Spectrum system to kind of help people out.
I thought you meant you make guides. Gotcha. Okay, so find Matt on the guide system then, and he'll help you out in game. Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought you had a YouTube channel that you had posted. Okay, cool. That's awesome, actually. And how? Before we move on from you, then, has the experience been good with that? And how have you enjoyed that? It's nothing I've ever touched on very much.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I personally like it because it gives me the opportunity to kind of shout out, all the things that people are doing well in the game, and getting people that are coming in from Eve, getting people who are coming in because they've seen a video, getting people who, some of them know quite a lot about other aspects of the game, so they're combat people and they want to come and find mining as a new thing. It definitely gets you to connect with people that you definitely wouldn't normally connect with, and that is invaluable to me. That's what I really enjoy about it.
Nice. Well, then I guess the last question is, does your RSI handle match the name that's on the screen, so people can come and find you?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
People can come find me, add me to friends, and I'll yeah, more than happy to help people going
Awesome.
through it.
Awesome.
There you
Thanks
go,
for
Red.
doing
You
what
can
you
learn
do,
how to
man.
mine.
Yeah.
You can finally learn, Red.
Big shout out there. Appreciate people that go through the guide system because it's a great way to get somebody with some experience.
Yeah. And all right, Matt, we'll let you go, man. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
and
cheers,
thank
Matt.
you for what you do.
No, likewise.
Later,
Cheers.
man.
Catch him, mate.
Yeah, so pretty good. That was neat, actually. That was unexpected. I really thought he just had like a YouTube channel that he posted some guides on. But yeah, do we want to move on to some of the other aspects a little bit? I want to touch on salvaging a little bit. We had an ISC this week, and we just talked about mining. And again, a lot of the comments that I got are, I don't want salvaging to be as complicated as mining, but do we want it to be the way it is now? No chance. I want to, before we jump into you guys, yesterday I did an 18-person salvaging op with my org. We had 2 reclaimers, 4 vultures, and some people moving boxes. One reclaimer made 10 million.
Yeah.
And most of it, our focus was RMC. Most of the money that was made from construction materials.
Yeah.
Only about $1 million was made with RMC, and it was a 4-hour session.
Yep.
Something ain't right still.
Well, that would have been 20 million last week.
Yeah.
Yes. So that we're getting there. We're getting to the right direction, but I don't think the price has incentivized going for RMC yet because the amount of time it takes to make construction materials is non-existent.
Yeah.
I saw some other feedback posts, I think, from Mike regarding Salvage on their official feedback request form.
Yep.
I think absolutely, number one, the RMC that you collect should be significantly more valuable than the construction components. They need to look at the alpha UEC per hour based on those activities and balance it based on that. Because I'll tell you what, I was out there doing solo reclaimer. I'd pull up to a hammerhead. I wouldn't even touch the scrapers. I'd get into that co-pilot seat. I would do the structural salvage, pull that in, and that was 300 SCU, right? And I could go back and, just pull out the 16 SCU boxes, go stack them for 10 minutes, come back out, go find the next hammerhead mission, and do that. And literally making millions. Doing RMC, doing hull scraping, it wasn't going to pay nearly the same amount, and there's no incentive there. They need to balance the pricing between RMC and construction components based on the alpha UEC per hour, roughly, of a multi-crew operation. Because you get 2 laser turrets, it's going to be pretty beneficial. The other thing they need to do is they need to block the ability to even structurally salvage a ship if you still have, let's say, more than 20% of the whole material remaining. You should not be able to go out and just instant God beam destroy an entire ship when it still has most of its armor, right? And that's what we're scraping. We're scraping the armor and the really high density, high purity materials from that outer shell that's supposed to protect the ship, keep all of the meat inside alive, where the construction components are literally just like structural trusses, conduit lines, things like that. That's just a bulk scrap that's left over once the shell's gone.
Yeah, like even from the just general, like you want to add some lore to it or have it just generally make sense. Well, would RMC be if it's not used in construction components, then it probably would make those construction components not very strong. So if I'm mixing in all of the material that makes RMC to my construction component mixture, then it wouldn't be very good construction components, so shouldn't even be able to make them. There's that, but let's assume they don't have the tech to be able to do that. Okay, that's fine. I know last week Croncy and I talked about this. I didn't necessarily agree that I thought we needed a price change. We definitely did. I didn't think at the time that it mattered because I always lean, for whatever reason, when it comes to resource gathering, I still have the ability somehow with no other aspect of the game but this to say, in the future, we're going to have crafting. It's going to be okay. It doesn't matter what the price is for things, because we should care about what the item is. So if I want to go for RMC because it's part of a crafting, a craft that I want to do, then I'll go for RMC. If I want to go for, and we all know it's not going to be construction materials long term, if I want to go for whatever material an 890 jump is made out of, I'll go for the structural salvage for that then. And yeah, obviously for now they need to make a short-term change, and I didn't think it was as necessary as it definitely turned out to be. But at the same time, should RMC, there's also a trade for RMC. So now if RMC is 25,000 credits per SCU, that would be like being able to buy Quantanium on the market and then trade it, and somebody be able to pirate that. So now we're talking about just creating if we thought inflation was bad now, it's going to continue to get worse with the current state of things that they're doing now. So it's like, oh, what do we do? They just put themselves in a pickle, I feel like, when it comes to this, where, god damn, the state of mining heading into 2024 sounds a hell of a lot better than the state of salvage. Right?
Yeah.
When I thought salvage was in a better place in 318 or whatever, in 319, when mining it's still broken working itself out. Yeah.
I'd say it's broken. The way that we're going to be able to get construction components, you'll show up to a mining claim, switch into the fracturing mode, and just there's no reason to spend time scooping it. It is a very quick, they talk about when the SRV came out, you could just go and move the ship out of the zone and get paid for your salvage mission.
So you don't even have to do that.
But now, it's just as quick as the SRV relocation mode. But what you end up with is people just going out. There's no incentive to do the RMC. They talk about it being like 15,000 credits compared to 6,000 for construction components. But you're getting so much more volume out of the construction components that it's a lot easier to go that route and less time spent. And it's all the alpha UEC per hour. It's not going to matter until we get into star systems that you're not going to see a salvage ship for another 5 days. So it makes sense to spend 2 hours sitting there, painstakingly scooping over every chunk of that
ship.
But it's
one thing
I feel like right now there's no incentive to go through the steps. Right? Yes, there's no incentive.
I think it is really important though, because a lot of the incentive could be changed theoretically with price changes. But I think it's really important we don't do just price changes, because if you do, you're going to screw over the vulture too much. Way too much. Because right now it's the reclaimer, because it can get 400 SEU or whatever from a container of just clicking a button, that so much outperforms what the vulture can do that how many people are you going to run in your reclaimer? Maybe 3 or 4, assuming you're using both lasers and all that sort of stuff, but you're making 50 times as much money than you are making on the vulture. So
and it's still
they need to do other things, and it's still soloable. So you need to not just bridge the gap with price. You need to be able to make sure that the vulture doesn't get nerfed into absolute oblivion.
Yeah, and that's the struggle they have with mining: the multi-crew versus the solo ship, right?
But don't you think that they've addressed that in at least a decent way?
I will say I will say the buffer being added to the salvage ships is absolutely a godsend. And they talked about structural salvage on the reclaimer being very basic. The process isn't there because we don't have Maelstrom yet. When we get that, we'll get the smaller ship chunks, and then I think there's a justification to bring the buffer size down on the reclaimer. We're at 240 SCU right now. Bring that down to 30 or 40, so that you can get the smaller ship chunks, and then still have where a vulture can go be solo, fill up its entire hold, with its 13 or so, and then with the reclaimer, you do have to have somebody back there managing boxes because that buffer fills up so quickly. Right, you've got to cycle it a lot more times. Where right now, the smallest chunk I got off of a hammerhead was 380 SCU. It was crazy, right? That if once we get Maelstrom in, if we're getting chunks down in the 15 or 20 range, total SU for construction components, that's where a buffer of 30 might make sense.
Yep. And then you're extending the time as well as incentivizing more people to join you, which also means split profits, which also balances it a bit more, right? Like you're continuing to do that. So yeah. I just hope we get something before Maelstrom, because otherwise this is going to be a really rough, however long of people just making insane money.
Yeah. And I know Red mentioned a wipe. I don't want to wipe. We have to resolve this shit first. There's too many situations. Yeah, we cannot have one until this stuff is resolved. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm with you, Croncy, too, about the something's got to give of. You can't, because and the way they went about it was like, all right, you got to. Since we last had a podcast, was like, all right, you got to put it in the sweet spot. That has not been, very great of an experience, or changing it to make it more multi-crew. And again, they never really claimed that it was going to be this big vast thing. They claimed it was going to be a small thing to make it a little bit more involved, and that they have plans for the future. But in the short term, one thing I don't think we should complain or argue about too much, and I know Red, you touched on that a little bit, is the missions. The missions are made by a different team, and if we want to complain about the structure of the company, we can. Well,
I will say they are a different team, but the economy team are right now working on both of those things.
Well,
and that's where we're sort of coming from. Well, it's pricing as well as mission rewards and also salvage rewards. So there is a team that is looking after that aspect of both of those things.
Yes, but let's talk. What I guess the mission I'm specifically talking about has nothing to do with the economy team, except for maybe the price, is the cleanup mission, the one that you can pull with the SRV. That's been the one that has been the most affected by changes that came in the game after it was released. That was meant to be a hole scraping mission. That was only supposed to be about a hole scraping, and now they turned it into an everything mission that is totally exploited, right? It should just be removed.
That's the other aspect, is that you've got these developers designing objectives for a mission system that, as long as it's complete, right, the mission completes, right? Yeah. They don't expect players to go in and drop -1 into the quantity buffer or anything like that. They don't expect people to go out and figure out ways to break it. That's why we're in alpha, right? Yeah. And they're seeing that happen, and obviously the mission design has got to incorporate certain ways people are going to cheese it. But if I have to go out and scrape a certain amount of RMC off of the hull before that mission completes, that's great. If I just have to disintegrate the ship and it marches as complete, that's a gap they need to go and tie off.
Yeah. Right? Or remove it altogether. Like, I don't at this point, it's like, should we just remove salvage missions from the game? Allow players to earn bigger salvageable ships via bounties, and just go about it that way for the moment, and just throw your hands up and say, hey guys, the game's in flux, this is where we're at right now. I think that could be okay. I don't know, it just depends on how alpha do they want to be, and for the most part they talk like they don't want to be very alpha and they want to be more live service, but then they do shit like this where it's the team that is doing more salvage stuff isn't talking to the team that has a bunch of salvage missions that are like, yo, these are going to be super negatively affected. We should work together on how this is all going to work out before we push this shit out. Yeah. It just seems like everybody's kind of sits in their own corner, does their own thing, comes to us, and we're like, yo, what? And then here we are on Christmas break with, we're left clicking in the Reclaimer co-pilot seat. That's what we're doing all Christmas break. So kind of sucks.
And I mean, I see it on the notes, but yeah, this is the absolute basic. They wanted to get something into our hands this year.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to touch on that. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, it's what they have right now. It's because, like you said, the different silos. There's a group working on Maelstrom. It's not ready to bring in for the ships. Is that system also going to go and convert into the asteroids? I talked about this on a different show, that I want a Maelstrom system to be able to bring in those gigantic rocks that we're going to have to break with the Arastra and the Orion, right? Mm-hmm. Don't make them that potato size shape, right? We want to see very unusually shaped asteroids, large chunks taken out of them, things like that, and be able to break those with the different segments. So you can kind of start breaking them apart into, the little sub chunks that the Arastra is actually going to be able to do.
And
that's what's going to make Orion mining
for a
and
long
stay
time.
At that location, right? Yeah, you should be able to come up to an asteroid that has 4,000 SCU of total material in there that you have to break apart into 200 SCU chunks, and then you get one 200 chunk off at a time and just kind of chisel away at it. Then break that down, going through the whole process. But that's where a system like Maelstrom could be a really good logical use case. They're talking about doing it on ships right now. What's the next step to get that into asteroids? And that's maybe the mining of the future.
Yeah.
Well, not just ships, but like there's terrain, right? And
yeah.
Is a rock that different from terrain? I would hope not. At least new terrain. They've added Maelstrom interacting with terrain.
Oh shit! I don't know about that. You think that?
Well, I don't know if it's coming in soon.
No.
I'm just saying. Well, that is one of the things that they showed in the Star. I was going to say Star Engine. That's another thing. The Star Engine trailer is the terrain also being impacted by Maelstrom.
What do you mean? Like it going into the water, or
I think certain elements of the terrain
being destroyed and whatnot.
I think certain elements of the terrain will be, but for the majority, this is not a voxel-based system.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm saying like if you are doing it to things that aren't just ships, then I don't think the step to asteroids is particularly far.
Understood. I thought you were saying like, all right, will allow me to dig under. I want to dig a cave now. I thought that's what you were trying to say.
Oh no.
Okay.
That would be great.
Like, it would be great, but I don't think we think. I think everything about the base building demo told us we ain't doing that. We're shooting a laser into the ground, and boxes are magically going to appear, and I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that.
For sure.
So but I thought you were going the No Man's Sky route a little bit, and I was
I mean, look, River Guy did make a gun that can interact with terrain, and I asked him about it at CitizenCon, and he said it still works. So you never know.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's neat.
Is his official handle now River Guy?
Probably.
Yeah, it has been forever.
Will Hain.
Yeah. What a Chad. That was probably one of the best parts of SitCon. But I definitely want to reiterate that they and about the ISC that they came on camera and were like, not my fault.
You mentioned to me yesterday when we were figuring out topics for today. You were like, "Did you notice that Torsten laughs when he was like,
when he says it?"
So we got told that we have to get this feature in this month.
What did you expect to have, right? So it was pretty much like, dude, what did you want? What do you want from me? Like, of course it's going to be shit, and everyone's yelling at me when it doesn't seem like it should be on me. They gave me a timeline, and this is what I could do within that timeline.
Yeah.
And you know what? They gave us something very cool, and in a lot of aspects, and very broken in a lot of aspects. And it's okay. It's okay that happened. It's just the amount of people in this community fighting the idea of this should not be this way it breaks my brain. That left clicking, like again, what makes Star Citizen special? That mining a rock isn't walking up to it and clicking E.
Yeah.
Salvaging shouldn't be the same, and that's it. I don't know how it's going to be. That's up to them to figure out. But I think most people can agree that the current state of breaking a salvage ship is not the way it should be long term. And I hope we can. I hope we can get more people to agree on that aspect, and that's all. And I don't think this is the first iteration many people would have wanted, including people within the company, but they wanted to get us something quick because they wanted a highlight feature for 322. Fine. Fine.
Yep.
Okay. Just say it, and they did. So now we're good. And
I will say, like, the speed that they did get in what they got in was pretty impressive, especially the VFX team being able to pop off that quickly over 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And have these amazing, I honestly, what I think are probably the best looking effects in the game at the moment.
Oof, I disagree. I hate them, but that's just going to be to each their own, I guess.
Wow.
I think it looks really goofy, and I think the stuff coming into the ship looking like a fucking ghost flying around is really weird to me. Yeah, I guess it's just a preference. I think it's
I
terrible.
feel like what we're dealing with is just a step up above engineering art, right? What we saw with the initial preview was all engineering art. Yeah.
Well, guys, if you want to watch ATC anymore, it's going to be with SaltEMike and RedMonsterSC.
Let's go.
Dethroned.
Yes. But only because of opinions on placeholder art, probably.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep.
That's I didn't like it, but overall I think the changes were
If we're talking about placeholder art, let's at least give a brief mention to the claw.
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not coming back.
Yeah, no. Pretty much essentially confirmed with the ISE. That's like, this is what it's going to at least look like.
And it's the progression of the game system. What we initially thought was going to be a claw that reaches out and grabs. I think, it makes sense the direction they've gone with it. And I think that's, in the ISC, they talked about it kind of matching what the Vulture has. It's got that distortion field in between the bars there. I feel like, the longer I've, obviously losing the claw was, it was sad for me. I was one of those that wanted to just, kind of the little alien chest burster thing coming out. And I wanted it to be like that. But having it come out with the beam emitters and that kind of, I think the 5-star on your previous show about this talked about it being the straw.
Yeah, you gotta. What a name, dude! Now I hear everybody calling it the straw, and I'm like, hell yeah! I mean,
I don't mind the bug zapper. Yeah, I don't mind the bug zapper.
That's a good one. It does look like a bug zapper as well. I think the biggest disappointment for me is that it is, you got the breaker upper on the claw too. That is supposed to be inside the ship, and that part inside the ship just isn't going to do anything. It feels like.
You mean that gigantic bay with all the grinding wheels and the engineering panel sit right next to the window? Like you should be able to sort stuff there.
Yeah, which Croncy, that's kind of why I think I don't like the VFX, because it's already broken before it ever gets into the ship. Maybe.
Sure.
Maybe that's a little bit of my thing.
I meant more I didn't mean necessarily that it was the aesthetics that I like. I meant more that it was like it's quite polished, the VFX. Versus when we get VFX other times, and I will fight you with that. Those are some polished VFX.
Yeah, and they've polished them a bit over the course of the PTU as well. So yeah, sure. I'm not arguing that.
You can polish a turd.
The thing about the whole thing how dare you, Red? The thing about the section inside the Reclaimer is, I've heard a lot of people say it was like, oh well, it doesn't do anything. I don't think that's the case. I think it does still make sense with the current gameplay, but it's not what I want.
Yeah.
Like I do want it to chop up larger things, but I wouldn't say that it's useless. It still makes a lot of sense, especially with they added in the whole interim cargo. Well, here is a giant part of the ship where theoretically the interim cargo would be.
Yeah. Now, Red, just because I'm looking at it, we're about an hour and a half. I think that's where I know we wanted to stop. Where are you with when you wanted to start your stream and stuff?
I've got flexibility to start. I was planning on getting into PTU, ePTU, doing some prospector focused mining today, and that's it's not a hard commitment, but
and I don't want to keep.
We got a couple more minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we'll try to go for about 5 more minutes or so, and then we'll let you go. Did you guys try any Arena Commander / Star Marine Time to Kill?
Yes.
What do you think?
Love it. Can't get into any of the new Star Marine maps. I guess I'm not lucky enough.
Oh, dude, I've gotten into them a lot.
Oh, you jerk.
Yeah, they're sick.
It felt good though. Shotguns, exactly like you said to me, do feel bad, like really, really bad in Arena Commander. But they seem fine in like not live, but like
against
in
NPCs, they're
the universe.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a bit strange. But I do like, it's a bit buggy, but I do like that they've got a new little UI in the bottom for when you kill or get killed by someone. Just giving you a little bit of information about the fight. It's a very like normal thing for every FPS to ever have.
Yeah.
But we haven't had that in Squadron, Star Citizen. So.
Yeah. And very developer UI looking. So we're obviously not like super polished there. But I really enjoyed some of the maps. There's like a lot of height. I went 7-0 in one like match just because I went to a really high place. Nobody could see where I was. Obviously, I didn't win the match. 7 kills isn't going to win anything. But I didn't die and I was killing people. And the P6LR is insane. If you're like, basically, I don't see a situation where you wouldn't use it. I point fire with it in close range and aiming down sights in distance, and it was a lot of fun. But I jumped into Star Marine, played a lot of it, and normally I would be like, yo, this is so jank, I'm not having fun. But it's funny to watch it be so jank, and it was not that, like, it's improving and becoming its own thing and becoming a lot of actual fun, which is surprising to have happened so quickly, I would say. Time to kill needs some thinking. I think before the podcast today, I was like, how are we going to handle meds? And unfortunately, I got a crime stat and got bounty hunted so I died when I was trying to test medical, and I didn't get to see what it's like when you have a tier 2 and a tier 1, how to deal with it. With this time to kill too much, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. The I don't know, but there's just a lot that needs to change now if you're going to go down this route. The game has gone one way for a really long time, and we'll have to see what happens. But I'm willing to be open-minded about that stuff. But I don't know. I think I have the dock on my phone because all my other monitors are taken up. I want to make sure.
There's one more sort of largish thing, which is RMC trading. So, and that's not real money credits. It's recycled material composites. I haven't been able to purchase any material from these locations. But and it's crazy profit. So, or the new location specifically, any of the new like salvage yards that are in 322, you can purchase RMC.
Do you know if all of them have quantum markers in the most recent patch? I didn't check. I forgot.
I went to all of the new locations that had quantum markers today.
How many were there?
Other new
there were 15.
I went. So
did it feel right?
There was 3 on Microtech. 2 of them had RMC.
Okay.
And then there was 4 or 5 on Hurston. I think
so there's
3
still
of them
some
had
hidden
RMC.
ones. Not all of them.
Probably.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the RMC you can purchase for about 10,000 credits. I think it's 10,900, and sell for in upwards, I think, of 16K at RCorp or something like that. So the percentage
60% profit. Insane.
Is insane. But I heard the 16K. I never saw it. So assume 14.3K is where I saw everywhere else. And that is going to be the piracy run, is the location on Hurston to Lorville, essentially.
Which I will also say I'm kind of fine with, because those locations are not armistice zones. So it's a genuinely risky trade route.
Yeah, they are monitored zones, but not armistice zones.
Yeah.
So taking down Comrade, if you see the Comrade down, don't buy anything.
Don't
be stupid.
Don't do it.
But yeah, so that'll be interesting. They also buy some materials, like the low end mining
iron
materials,
and something.
Iron and I can't remember.
Copper?
Quartz, maybe?
No.
Copper. Yeah, I think you're right, actually.
Okay.
And they also sell multi-tool and multi-tool attachments there. So these are you're just starting to see the economy. You're starting to see maybe the ideas of what they have in their heads about, sorry, brain fart, the recipes, but they call them something else.
Blueprints.
Thank you. And then last thing I want to touch on, the ship prices. That's not a bug that they put in the game. That's something
I thought it was confirmed to be a bug. Was it not?
It's a bug that you could see them, but we've had Phil, who's the producer of the PU. He was on SCL. He stated that it is something that the economy team is looking into, but none of those things are coming in 322. None of those things are confirmed for to be a thing. But it is something that they were actively looking at. I am sort of okay with what I saw with ship prices because of the amount of inflation in the game, but it just comes down to, okay, well, it all comes down to like, what are missions going to deliver? What sort of profits are you going to make doing all these things? Then the ship prices can react to that. I don't necessarily like the idea of making 250,000 credits on an entry level type mission. That's kind of crazy with some of them. So it really comes down to a lot of things. And I think we're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff in PTUs and in live where things aren't making sense because there's so many moving parts. The economy team's going to have to break some things in order to fix them. So the next year is going to be ridiculous when it comes to that stuff, I think, because we need it to be. And that's where we are. Before we let you go, Red, final thoughts on the state of mining heading into 2024. How confident are you? And where can people find you? We're going to try and go live as quickly as possible so we can raid you as well. And that's let people know where they can find you and all that stuff. So we'll do our final goodbyes for the show today.
So I'm RedMonsterSC. You can catch me on Twitch, Twitch TV/RedMonsterSC, and also on YouTube, youtube.com/RedMonsterSC. My YouTube is mostly guides. I am doing live streaming on both Twitch and YouTube now.
Nice.
And Red Monster Gaming is my website with all of my charts and cheat sheets. And then shop.RedMonster Gaming if you wanted to get an awesome t-shirt like this, Occupy Pyro, or others.
In my chat on Twitch, link to all those guides are at !mining. That covers everything for Red there. For you guys that are watching live on Twitch, we'll link all that stuff down below on YouTube, though.
Sunday morning are my mining sessions. I was previously at 3 times a week, but I've got a 4-month-old daughter who is
Congrats,
just
by the way.
The most enjoyable way I could spend my evenings. So we're focusing on that. But that's where you can find me, and really appreciate you guys. I think as far as the future of mining going into 2024. I'm happier with things being more viable for solo prospectors. Getting to the right location is going to be huge. Knowing the rock types is going to be huge. Continuing that into salvage. We've got the basics of structural salvage right now. Hopefully we can tie that all in. I think there's a lot of crafting 2024 and get Maelstrom in. I think those are some key objectives that are going to change all of that out. So.
Yeah. What about you, Croncy, before we go? How do you feel about everything?
I'm always feeling good,
True.
Except for
the worst.
grad racing. I am. I'm the worst person. No, I've been feeling good, even about the patch, even about structural salvage. Even though I wish it could be better, I'm still enjoying it. I'm having a good time with the feature.
Yep, I want to make that clear about myself as well. As disappointed as I am in the way it works, that doesn't mean that I haven't enjoyed interacting with the system. Most of the system is really fun. The Copilot seat's boring as fuck. Simple as that.
Yeah. So I'm having a good time. I did celebrate my Twitch partner anniversary today. Yeah.
Yay! Congrats.
Thank you.
So they like announce and tell you right now? I don't even. Mine's sometime in March, I think.
Yeah. It comes up in chat once you set a date. And so you'll just be bombarded with people in your chat spamming happy part. It's like a pre-made message.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and they can click the button to it. Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. And I guess that's where we leave you guys. So thank you for watching, everybody. Red, go live. Enjoy yourself playing some mining.
Yep. Live now. I'm going to go take a quick 2-minute bio because there's been a lot of discussion and a very tiny bladder. So
go. Thank you for watching, everybody. We appreciate it. I'm going to put us with hopefully not breaking too many things. I'm going to put us over here for the end and say goodbye to Red.
I was gonna get Red to do it too. The guests have to do it too, Mike. Come on.
I know, but we can't because of the animation. We got the production value.
True.
So we got to leave it out for this week. But Red, don't forget to answer the call, okay?
Okay, I won't forget to answer the call. You guys have a great one.
Thank you for being our first guest on the new version of the show with Croncy.
Am I the first on the new? Oh, guys,
you are the first
and last.
So honored. All right.
Thank you, man. Go get
Thank you
some.
so much,
Go get your bathroom break, and we're looking forward to watching your stream after this.
All right, guys. Catch you later.
Later, dude.
Catch up.
So, Croncy, that's where we'll leave the show. Thank you. Next week we will have a show. The following week we will not. I'm away for the holidays, and everybody should just enjoy time with their family, no matter what you're celebrating. And yeah, keep an eye out for the podcast channel and a big dump of a bunch of shows because I'm just going to do them all very quickly and probably launch them all at the same time. So make sure you guys check that
also
out.
Means that
What's
also means because this will be the possibly the second last podcast on this channel.
Oh shit!
Second last, third last, something like that. I think. Yeah.
A sad
So
day.
make sure
I'm
you
gonna have
guys
to make
check
more
the other
YouTube
channel.
videos on my main channel. That means I
Yeah,
have
true.
to work more. God damn it. So yeah, but make sure you get subscribed over there. We're going to try to hit 1,000 subs and try to get to the 4,000 watch hours as quickly as possible to get it monetized and all that stuff because they won't be monetized right away. So yeah, make sure you get subscribed over there and everything. And that's obviously important, not just for support for us and everything, but also for just generally getting seen on YouTube, right? A monetized video just gets way more views than a non-monetized video. It's just how YouTube works. Whether or not you put ads on it or not, just doesn't matter. So thank you again, as always, guys, for the support. One thing that Red inspired me to do is we need to have some like ATC merch or something too. So I want to try to make that go live for the new year as well. And I'll look into that. But thank you, everybody, for watching. We really, really appreciate you. And thank you for a great year of watching this show and keeping it alive. All the people who call in, Croncy coming in this year and revitalizing what was honestly dying. So thank you again. I will continue to say that to you over and over and over again. It's been a great end of the year. So thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Although you keep saying that it was dying, I looked at the stats. It wasn't. It wasn't, Mike.
My motivation for doing it was dying, and my ability, my ability to come up with a unique topic every week for the way the show was formatted, that was a dying format and needed to be revamped. And I needed a host in order to do that, and that was you. So thank you. And I guess that's where we leave you. I have my phone this week.
You've said that every week for like the last month because you have it every time now.
No, I didn't have it last week, I think. Don't forget, guys, to
answer the call.
Yeah. Cringe you all you want, people. Cringe all you want.
It's all right because you put the cringe at the end of the video and then they don't have to watch anymore.
Exactly.